Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant. Late last night, East Coast time in the United States, Canon lifted the embargo on the announcement of its latest APS-C sensor-based camera body, the Canon 80D. And I can't be the only one who thinks Ritalin when I say that out loud. Anyway, the 80D is a modest set of upgrades over the very well-received and successful Canon 70D. Higher megapixel count sensor, improved autofocus, jacks for headphones and a mic, and some new accessories. A directional shoe-mounted microphone, a power zoom adapter that enables a new lens, the 18-135, to have very smooth zooms. And really, this all points to a video-centric hybrid camera. The question is, are these updates sufficient to make it competitive in a hotly contested space? Is the 80D a compelling proposition, for example, when compared to the Panasonic Lumix GX8, a 4K internal recording, dual image stabilization mirrorless camera with focus and exposure assists, and that lovely tiltable EVF? Is it a compelling proposition when compared to the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, which arguably has the best 5-axis in-body image stabilization system out there and can stitch together 40 megapixel sensor images when mounted on a tripod, especially when both of these cameras have just had their prices reduced, so they're $200 less than the Canon. What about when comparing it to a 2-year-old Sony a6000, which you can now buy new for $500, body alone, less than half the price of the 80D? And ultimately, how compelling is the 80D when compared to Sony's newly announced A6300, another 4K internal recording camera, which will also do 120 frames per second full HD minimal crop, has a 14-stop wide dynamic range with S-Log3, has improved low light sensitivity of about a stop, baba, which is also $200 less? Maybe the answers are yes. It depends on who you are. Who is this camera for? Well, if you're a Canon loyalist, as I once was, look, the upgrades are probably good enough to get a good number of people who were thinking about getting the 70D to pay $200 more for the 80D. If you have gotten into filmmaking on a smartphone and now want to move up, well, the 80D makes a lot of sense. If you want to move up from point and shoot, same thing. I mean, you've got legendary and appropriate reputation for reliability. The ergonomics are pretty much class leading. You can't really go wrong. On the other hand, maybe the 80D at the end of the day is really for Canon's shareholders. And I don't mean to be snarky about that. Look, I might do the same thing, but here's why I say that. At a time when camera unit shipment volume is in free fall, it really strikes me that the Canon 80D is Canon's attempt to control the descent rather than doing something profoundly new, different, aggressive to turn things around. And look, it's at one level the same philosophy that Sony has. As unit shipments go down, they want to have higher value add products. That means protecting margins. And for Canon, that means not putting so much into the 80D that people are dissuaded from going into the much more expensive, much higher margin Cinema EOS line, where, after all, the base offering, the Canon C100 Mark II, which doesn't do 4K, is $45.99. Or if you want to get into a 4K hybrid stills video camera, you have to pay $6,000. $5,990 for the just announced but not yet shipping Canon 1DX Mark II. And if you really just want to go to a camcorder with 4K, well, you can get that for as low as $19.99 for the Canon XC10, a camera that has just not really struck a chord with much of the marketplace. Really, I might do the same thing. But then again, I might not. Because the history of companies who refused to cannibalize their own businesses is also a history of companies that have failed. Anyway, I'm Hugh Brownstone, 3 Blind Men and an Elephant. See you next time. And yes, I'm remembering, please, if you like what you saw here, subscribe below.